just to prove that you do. Come on and cry me a river. Oh, cry me a river. I cried a river over you. I cried a river.
Lovely moon out tonight, isn't it? Hello everyone, and welcome again to my floundering attempt at critique. Before I start the video, I want to mention two things. First off, this commentary will contain major spoilers for Devilman Crybaby, and will also be spoiling a key moment in Parasite the Maxium. So if you don't want to be spoiled for either of those shows, then please don't watch this. Also, I'm sorry the video didn't come out sooner, I was busy with finals and all that. So in January of 2018, there was an anime that came out on Netflix called Devilman Crybaby. A geek culture channel called Nerdwire decided to do a countdown called Top 5 Disturbing Moments in Devilman Crybaby, with actor Chris Carr presenting the points. I'm not really sure if she actually wrote the script or not, but considering that she said this...
I'm Chris Carr. Here are my top 5 messed up moments from Devilman Crybaby.
I'm going to treat the video as if it was written by her. I also want to mention that there are a couple of times where I'll be criticizing Nerdwire's video, in which case I'll be switching my outro to Clavier. 2 months later, a couple of commentators, Scarlet Otaku Hiten Mitsuru, decided to do a co-op commentary on this countdown, and I had a lot of issues with this. Which is a shame, since I normally really like Scarlet Otaku's commentaries, and I also enjoyed plenty of Hiten's videos as well, but this... well, you'll see.
Devilman Crybaby feels like a throwback to 80s anime by upping the violence to an insanely graphic level, and really playing the anything goes, it's Netflix card by rolling straight past fan service into softcore porn territory.
Haha, the joke's on you! It's based on an 80s anime! Also, Devilman was already a violent show, it was just, you know, revamped for a modern audience.
That's not even counting the fucked up shit that happens in the manga, too.
Just because Devilman Crybaby was based off an already existing source material, that doesn't mean it can't be a throwback to 80s anime. The definition of a throwback is something that is suggested or suited to an earlier time or style. There's nothing that says the throwback has to be an original work to be considered as such. As long as Devilman Crybaby is reminiscent of 80s anime, then it could still be seen as a throwback to other shows of that time period. Let's look at It 2017 as an example of this. It's often seen as a throwback to the 80s despite being a remake of an already existing book and miniseries because of how it not only references products of that time, but because of how some of its plot points, mainly the group of scrappy outcast kids band together to fight off something bigger than themselves, is reminiscent of other movies like E.T. or The Goonies.
Now, I'm not an 11-year-old boy, so seeing boobs really isn't that exciting for me. And I felt the service was way over the top, frankly, distracting from what was more interesting, the demon hunting. Stop doing these weird upskirt shots and get back to hunting demons, bro! Because that is crazy messed up.
I'm a really big fan of your choice of clips, like the shot of Akira looking through Miki's clothes where he's actively fighting an urge to rape her. You know, it's not like he expresses having a problem with how sexual he's becoming, and Rio tells him it's his demon impulses that he can't really control. Nope, fan service. Yeah, that's right.
Did the show's sexual themes make you uncomfortable? Good. That was the point. Why do you think the scene with Miko touching herself was set with a donkey sound?
Okay, Heaton's point was alright, because Chris was ignoring the context of those scenes and treated them like they were just there for fan service when they were clearly more important to the plot than Chris claimed. Then Scarlet comes in and goes, oh, it's supposed to be disturbing, that's the point. Except Chris didn't complain about the sexual scenes being disturbing. She said that they were overdone, distracting, and got in the way of the demon hunting aspects of the show, but she never once said that they were disturbing. Heck, from the clips you showed, she never even gave off any indication that she was disturbed by them in the first place. Now, that doesn't change how her complaints are still wrong, and that she's misrepresenting these scenes, but bringing up how these scenes are supposed to be disturbing doesn't debunk anything that she said and actually misses Chris's overall point. Since the only reason she brought this up in the first place was to say that she'll be focusing on how disturbing the main themes of the show are, rather than just saying that the sex scenes are creepy because... sex.
Stop doing these weird upskirt shots and get back to hunting demons, bro! Because that is crazy messed up. And since this is my video, that's what I'll be focusing on. Not Akira Spider-Maning all over his bedroom ceiling. Ew. Show me. Murder in the Club. Rio already seems like a really sketch friend.
We have to go, now.
Who is that guy anyway?
Rio Asuka, he's the same age as me, but he's a professor at a college in the States. Let's go.
You know, how you work in casual exposition about your weird friend with a gun? Dude wanted to murder a cat when they were kids, so really it shouldn't be a surprise that the name of Discovery or whatever, Rio decided to speed up his devil hunting by straight up murdering people in the club. Apparently devils are like sharks and need to smell blood in the water. He breaks a bottle and starts stabbing innocent bystanders at this orgy. Okay, I mean, innocent is a loaded word. Even weirder, his best friend, Crybaby, and high schooler Akira is like, no, dude, stop, not cool. By the end, we of course know why he's such a creepy ass weirdo. Still, how However, Satan seems pretty iffy on this one. I need to be a lot more on board with my friend's crazy-ass plans. I need to be convinced to go to brunch. Murder at sex parties is gonna take a lot more.
Gee, it's almost like you're supposed to be iffy on him. For all we know, he could literally be Hitler. Or Satan.
Scarlet, that was a joke. She was making light of the situation by saying that if she was put into that scenario, she probably wouldn't go since she doesn't like going out to brunch, let alone an orgy. Bringing up how you're supposed to find Ryo disturbing doesn't do anything here. Because she wasn't trying to make a point on the show as a whole, she was just, well, you know, making a joke.
The fact that he wanted to kill the cat when he and Akira were younger is part of his character that does not take any value in human life or life in general, giving us the idea that maybe not everything is right with Ryo, and to even not trust him at his word.
How does this debunk what Chris said? Your point doesn't change anything about how disturbing the scene is, because if Ryo was supposed to be unsettling, then congratulations! The scene is still disturbing because it's centered around a creepy character doing inhumane things. Unless you're trying to say that the club scene isn't disturbing because it's not surprising that Ryo would do this, but that's not how being disturbing works. To disturb someone is to make someone anxious or fearful, while in order to surprise someone, you just need to shock or astonish them. I guess the two could work in tandem, but there's nothing saying that one can't exist without the other. Also, if you are saying that something has to be surprising in order to be disturbing, then you're also saying that having build-up makes something less disturbing, which goes against the entire horror genre. Because by this logic, I guess Shinichi's mother getting decapitated and replaced by a parasite, and Parasite the Maxium isn't disturbing, because hey, they foreshadowed it was going to happen.
Even barring all of that, Ryo stabbing people is the most messed up thing in that scene. Not the people's bodies warping into horrible monsters, not the woman's vagina literally consuming someone, not Akira ripping the alligator demon in fucking half like a hot dog bun, no! Fucking...
Just because a scene is gorier than another, that doesn't automatically make it more disturbing for everyone. If I can fast forward through the video a bit, Hiten, you pretty much admit that you think the number 2 entry was the most disturbing moment in the show.
Number 2 is the entirety of episode 9! And for those of you who've seen Devilman Crybaby, you know that this should be number 1, but you know, it's not!
But from what I've seen, the goriest thing that happens in that entry is Miki getting brutally stabbed in the back and the entire supporting cast getting dismembered and paraded around. Yeah, pretty gory, I'll admit, but when compared to the number 4 entry, where Akira's possessed dad murdered everyone in an airport and wears the victim's faces on his own body, I think we could say that one scene is clearly gorier than another. Yet you think the number 2 entry is more disturbing, despite being less gory. For all we know, Chris could have been more disturbed by the sight of a human character murdering innocent bystanders because it seemed like a more realistic depiction of mass murder than with the demons. The later entries seem to imply that she was more focused on the emotional and psychological aspects of something being disturbing than anything else.
Dad kills everyone on the bus in an insanely grisly manner, and Mom pleading with Akira not to save them because they're already dead is equally, if not more, emotionally scarring than the violence we just saw. Miko is super jealous of Miki, and hates that she's not as fast, cute, whatever. She wants to be the one and only Miki. So much so that she's willing to debase herself with a creepy photographer, take body-altering drugs, and loves being the devil because it makes her better than Miki. The episode Go to Hell, You Mortals really explored the darkness within humanity. The mob mentality, the bloodlust. This horrible aspect of people is put on display when a bunch of people go to hunt down Miki after she defends Akira as a devil with a heart on social media.
In short, it's likely she simply finds gore less disturbing than one of the characters going on a psychotic, bloodlust-fueled rampage.
Number 3, the single white female storyline. There was a very weird secondary single white female kind of storyline in the show between Miki and Miko, who's also Miki. Miko's super jealous of Miki, and hates she's not as cute, whatever. She wants to be the one and only Miki. So she wants to base herself the photographer, take body drugs, and loves being the devil because it makes her better than Miki. You're still better than Miki.
So what's disturbing about that?
Because they're not kissing by the end, that's what.
I mean, yeah, but like, not that kind of disturbing. I like how she calls this subplot disturbing, but leaves out the only actual disturbing clip related to the subplot. You know, where Miko blows her own fucking brains out to save Miki, where she's in tears pleading the mob to spare her, and they're just chanting for her to just fucking kill herself already.
I'm sorry, this clip was the only actually disturbing part of the subplot? Well, that's funny, because I thought what people found disturbing was a subjective issue that varies depending on the person and has no objective basis behind it. Just because you don't find the rest of the subplot disturbing, that doesn't mean that everyone else feels the same way. Chris clearly explained that she thought Miko's obsession over being equal to or better than Miki was disturbing. She even compared the subplot to Single White Female, a horror movie. How do you not get that someone might be disturbed by a subplot that's similar to a movie about a stalker who wants to completely replace their target's existence? At the very least, you could try and explain why this subplot isn't actually disturbing. If she was taking scenes that were supposed to be lighthearted or comedic out of context to make them look disturbing, then your point might have had some weight to it. But that clip you brought up doesn't prove how the rest of the subplot isn't disturbing. It just shows that one aspect of it can be considered disturbing, but that's all. Nothing more, nothing less. Without an explanation, your interjection amounts to nothing more than, this is a disturbing because I say so, which is the worst argument to make when covering a countdown, because at that point you're just arguing subjectivity with subjectivity. Now that being said, I do think whoever edited the countdown could have used better clips. Seriously, out of all the clips the editor could have used to show how obnoxiously jealous Mika was being, they used the ones where she's apologizing to Miki for being jealous towards her, and the one where she's trying to save Miki from getting killed by the mob. You know, not the clip where she's trying to one-up her, or the one where she punched the locker because she caught herself being friendly with Miki. I know I just said that what one finds disturbing is subjective, but my point is that the clips that were used didn't match well with what Chris said.
Miko is super jealous of Miki.
Oh yeah, she's so jealous of Miki that she's having a friendly and civil conversation with her. Call this a nitpick if you want, but this is the point that forced me to watch the anime just so I can make sure that Chris wasn't taking this subplot out of context like she did with the other scenes in this video.
Finally, number 1, the everything about Cyrene. Ugh, it's just so gross. I don't use the F word too often, but this show is foul. You know, that's actually kind of funny because Cyrene has those chicken legs. If you watch it, you'll get it. And if you are going to watch it, don't watch it with your door open to your porch. My neighbors already thought I was weird enough from the conversations I have with my dog, now this. I'm not getting invited to any block parties this year.
Wow! There are two really big problems with this segment. First off, Chris, compared to the rest of the list, you did a horrible job at explaining why everything about Cyrene is disturbing. With the other entries, you did a somewhat decent job at explaining who the characters were, the events that led up to this scene, and why the scene was disturbing. Here, the only detail you give on why Cyrene is disturbing is...
Ugh, it's just so gross.
Now, granted, from the clips in the background, we can assume that you're disturbed by the sexual aspects of this character, but I seriously doubt that's everything about Cyrene. And that leads me to my second point. Putting Cyrene on the list because of sexual content goes completely against the criteria you set forth in the beginning of the video. Remember this clip?
And since this is my video, that's what I'll be focusing on. Not Akira Spider-Manning all over his bedroom ceiling.
So, Akira having a masturbatory wet dream isn't on the list because fan service, but when Cyrene does it, not only does it make the list, but it's worthy of being number 1. And because the only reason she's on the list is because masturbation, I can't even give you that you probably had other reasons for being disturbed by her, since nothing you said here implies that. This entire number 1 segment is really inconsistent with the rest of the video. Now with all that said, how do Hiten and Scarlet argue this segment?
Cyrene? Really? Oh, yeah, you know, ritualistically murdering the only good-hearted characters in the show, some of them being murdered by their own fucking friends. Let's not forget, is so much more appropriate than 2 scenes of female masturbation.
Hiten, it's a gross sex, and sex is bad.
Oh, so you agree the number 1 segment is bad, but not because she broke her own criteria, not because she badly explained her reasoning, but because she personally finds overly gratuitous sex scenes more disturbing than ritualistic murder. Like I said earlier, what one finds disturbing is going to be subjective, so if she's more disturbed by the sexy heartbeat than the supporting cast luau, that's her opinion. Obviously, you don't have to agree with that. Heck, after seeing both of those scenes, I don't agree with Chris either. But don't treat her personal preference like it's an objective problem with the list. If she was trying to say that Cyrene was objectively the most disturbing thing in the show, then I wouldn't have an argument here. Because in that case, Chris would be the one forcing her own viewpoint onto people. But that's not the case here. The only thing Chris said was that she personally found Cyrene to be the most disturbing thing in the show. That's it.
And the way she fucking dies isn't even disturbing. It's one of the most weirdly heartwarming scenes in the show, actually. What are you, some kind of chicken?
In fact, it's so heartwarming that I'm not even going to try to explain why that's the case to try and give my point some credibility.
Plus, it was kind of a given from the very beginning that she wanted Amon's dick, so it's hardly anything that is shocking or provocative. She's just a demon lady who wanted a demon dude's dick. Can't a girl fantasize in peace here?
Well, 1, that still doesn't change the fact that Chris found Cyrene to be disturbing. 2, as I said earlier, you don't have to be shocking in order to be disturbing. And 3, not provocative? To be provocative is to arouse sexual desire or interest. How is an extremely sexualized character like Cyrene not provocative? If you're using the other definition, which is to cause annoyance or a strong negative reaction in someone, then that really doesn't work either, since to provoke someone is to anger and annoy them, while the point of disturbing someone is to make them frightened or uncomfortable.
No, wanting a cock is disturbing. I think that's the problem I have with the whole fucking list. The word disturbing. If this was a list of things she was surprised Netflix got away with, or that were provocative, or even things that shocked her, sure, maybe I could see it. No, these were the most disturbing things in the anime. Fucking, this is why God nuked the world at the end, because people can't handle titties in their art.
Alright, let's go through this point one by one.
No, wanting a cock is disturbing.
To some people it is. What's your point? Actually, your statement kinda goes against an earlier point that Scarlet made.
Did the show's sexual themes make you uncomfortable? Good. That was the point. Why do you think the scene with Miko touching herself was set with a donkey sound?
For context's sake, that scene Scarlet's talking about involves Miko masturbating over Akira. So, according to Scarlet, a masturbation scene can be disturbing, but according to you, it shouldn't be disturbing at all, because all she wants to do is have sex with Akira. Chalk it up to poor wording, but this comes off as being inconsistent to say the least.
I think that's the problem I have with the whole fucking list. The word disturbing. This was a list of things she was surprised Netflix got away with, or that were provocative, or even things that shocked her. Sure, maybe I could see it.
Way to contradict Scarlet again by saying that the Cyrene segment would be fine if the list was titled the most provocative or most shocking moments of When Crybaby, even though Scarlet just said that Cyrene wasn't either of those things.
No, these were the most disturbing things in the anime.
In Chris's opinion. She never implied that these were the objectively most disturbing moments of the show, these are just the moments that she personally found disturbing. She even mentions that this is her list right before the countdown starts.
I'm Chris Carr. Here are my top 5 messed up moments from Devilman Crybaby.
Fucking, this is why God nuked the world at the end, because people can't handle titties in their art.
We get it, you think that being disturbed by sex scenes is immature. Fine. But just because you feel that way, that doesn't make it a problem for Chris's countdown. So with all of that out of the way, Scarlet gives her final thoughts and the outro skit plays. To be perfectly clear, I'm not saying that you have to agree with Nerdwire's choices for this list. Heck, I'm not even saying that you have to respect their opinions. If you think someone being disturbed by sexual themes is immature, then that's perfectly fine. The main problem I had with this commentary is that your reasoning for why her entries are bad was either incredibly subjective or didn't make sense. The number 5 entry wasn't disturbing because it had build-up. The number 1 segment wasn't disturbing because murder is more disturbing than sex, also it's not shocking or provocative because it had build-up. And the number 3 segment wasn't disturbing because Hiten and Scarlet said so. Just because you have different opinions on which scenes are more disturbing, that doesn't make the entries on her list objectively bad choices. I'm not going to pretend that Nerdwire's video was good. Chris took a lot of things from the show out of context, and it's never a good sign when your own clips don't support what you're saying, which was a consistent problem throughout the countdown. And if I can give you two credit for anything, you two did have really good chemistry, and the best points in this video were easily the ones where you exposed how Chris misrepresented the scene she was discussing. The best advice I can give here is that if anyone's going to cover a countdown, focus on the information provided for their opinions rather than the opinions themselves. Especially if you're covering a list with the topic as subjective as what people may or may not find disturbing. This has been Luxter, and I pray this commentary isn't complete garbage.